Another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. This is the February 11th, 2026 edition. I'm back on my cell phone. I'm just bouncing back and forth trying to see which one I prefer. But anyway, I'm just talking to you tonight. Just have a few things just want to go over. So it's not going to be a long broadcast, but it's going to be a good one. So I do want to thank everybody who's been joining me and supporting me and keeping up with me. And so I want to encourage you to subscribe. I think I looked and I was about 588 subscribers away. Uh, oh, that's how many I have. And I'm about 12 away from 600. So I'd like to get that this week. I don't know if I will. Just kind of depends on if people like what I'm doing here, right? So anyway, I'm coming here tonight wearing my Browns Tennessee Rats jersey. I don't know how much you know about the Browns Tennessee Rats out of Holden, Missouri. And I've been down in that part of the country. Actually, I was able to go down there maybe 15 years ago and really develop the team history in that part of the state of Missouri. And so, yeah, so you might find a little bit more about the Browns Tennessee Rats now because, hey, that's what I did. So, and I was heavily involved in that recognition of that team. The Walter Brown, their owner, I particularly was interested in him because, like myself, uh, he played trumpet. Of course, he played cornet. And of course, as a young kid starting off, I started on cornet. So I had a lot of interest in Walter Brown. Now he's buried in Kansas City, and I'm almost sure, I'm gonna double check this, but I'm almost sure he's buried in the same cemetery as Charlie Parker, the legendary saxophone player. So, but Walter Brown is somebody that doesn't get talked about a whole lot. So his brother Carmine Woods, hey, thanks for joining me, Pastor. Glad to have you in this evening. And yeah, I'm just going to go right to the facts, all right? So I'm going to go to February 11th, 1921. And John Henry Lloyd, his jumping from the Brooklyn Royal Giants in New York to manage the Columbus, Ohio Buckeyes, and taking five players with him put a lot of attention and spotlight on one of the booking agents in that part of the country, and that was Nat Strong. And Nat Strong, I was reading the article in the Baltimore Afro American. They kept referring to him as the Hebrew, and of course, you know what that meant. And they said that he was exacting a heavy toll on the Negro League ball players because they said that he controlled 150 amusement parks. So that's basically all the parks that they were playing for money up in the East Coast. He controlled all of those through his booking syndicate. And it's this started way back in 1903, 1904, and Rube Foster broke away from him in 1907 and came west, and that's how the Chicago Leland Giants got really famous. They were already established, but Rube Foster put them on the map. Of course, later on he organized his team, the Chicago American Giants, out in the West. But it was all a part of trying to get away from that evil hand of Nat Strong, who just controlled everything in the East. So we got a few people. Hey, yeah, if you're joining, let me know where you're joining from too, guys. That's always interesting. So we're talking about Nat Strong. And they said that one of the ways that Nat Strong controlled things was he played upon the weaklings almost every black team to keep control. So if some of these people like John Henry Lloyd, hey, they jumped all the time and went back and forth from Chicago. They would go out and play Winter League baseball with Rube Foster. They tried their hardest to break this guy's hold on Negro League baseball, but he controlled everything. Now, Nat finally passes away in 1934, and other people try to duplicate what he did, but I don't think anyone ever had that much success. But let me tell you what he was doing. This is how he controlled it. So first of all, every game that any of these Negro League teams played, and not only teams that were in the league, these were other teams like the New York Colored Giants, and there were regional teams in Philadelphia. If you wanted to play in any of those parks, you had to give him 10%. So he got 10% of every game, and then he would give 65% to the club owners. all right, and never more than 25% of the money to the players. And so basically, for the most part, even the top teams, the most they were getting for a game was $500, no matter what size the crowd. So you could draw, 10,000 people one game and maybe 600 people the next game. It doesn't make a difference. You're not going to get any more money. And so John Henry Lloyd decided, I'm going to jump and take some guys with me to the Negro National League, and he became manager of the Columbus Buckeyes. And that was something that happened right there. And I will tell you this in my book, the Dizzy and Daffy Dean Barnstorming Tour, Race, Media, and America's National Pastime. I really give you some history on Nat Strong as from my perception. And of course, the reason I did that is because in 1934, he promoted the Dizzy Dean games that came into his area. So he had the New York Black Yankees, and he promoted those games up around New York. And so that was the last big thing he did, because I think he passed away. I think it was either December or February, somewhere in there in the wintertime before the 1935 season. So the last thing he promoted was the Dizzy and Daffy Dean Barnstorming Tour. All right. And so I was able to write in detail about him. All right. So let's go to February 11th, 1931. We're going to jump to a guy. I haven't talked about him much, but he was a baseball player who played basketball, and he was pretty good. The Harlem Globetrotters tried to sign this guy, and he just wouldn't sign with them. And he was out of Gary, Indiana. His name is Neil Robinson. He had a brother named Johnny Robinson, but Neil was a great basketball player as well, but he never signed for the Globetrotters. But he did in 1931. Neil Robinson was playing basketball for the Gilkerson Union Giants, and that's Gilkerson, who was operating out of Spring Valley, Illinois, Robert P. Gilkerson. And in this particular game, Neil Robinson scored 20 points in a Giants win at Mason City, Iowa. And the two teams formed the opposition. And let's see. Okay, so this is how they did this particular game. Now, this is interesting. I don't think I've never seen this tried in modern day, but they would try to do creative things to get people to come to the basketball game. So this is what they did. There was another team there called the Vagabonds. So they played the first and third quarters. And then while another team, the Canvas Company, played the second and fourth quarters against one team, the Gilkerson Union Giants. Of course, they still lost 73-30. How about that? So they didn't even have one team play the whole game, right? They had two teams playing. The Vagabonds were pretty popular up in that area. So all right then. Somebody said, let me see what somebody's saying. They said, did they try to sign Bob Gibson and Satchel Paige? Well, both of those players played in completely different eras, so I'm not exactly sure what you're asking there. But of course, Nat Strong, when Satchel Paige was actually went east with the Pittsburgh Crawfords, especially in 1934, they were still under Nat Strong's leadership in that area, because you couldn't play the Bushwicks or anything like that in Brooklyn unless you crossed and had to give some money to Nat Strong. So I don't think Bob Gibson ever had to. Okay, so you're talking about the Globetrotters. Well, the Globetrotters, Satchel Paige traveled with the Globetrotters, and Gibson played with them for a little period. So yeah, that's kind of interesting history. I have to touch on Gibson's basketball one of these times. So let's go to this next one. And by the way, guys, if you like this kind of conversation, feel free to subscribe and catch me from time to time when I come on, which is about every day now. All right, so I've got one more, and I'm going to jump over here to February 11, 1949. And the Yankees, they were negotiating for Artie Wilson, who batted .404 for Birmingham of the Negro American League in 1948, and .377 in 1947. 377, wow, good hitter. And at the last minute, Bill Veeck got in a plane, and where Wilson was playing down in Puerto Rico, and he was down there tearing the cover off the ball too. He's batting .372 down in Puerto Rico. And so Bill Veeck heard the Yankees were trying to get to him, and they were trying to negotiate with Tom Um, I'm trying to think of the owner of the team, Tom Hayes. That's who it was. So they were trying to negotiate with Tom Hayes. Bill Beck flies down there, and he breaks a lot of baseball rules. Matter of fact, George Weiss, the general manager of the Yankees, said that Beck acted unethically, if not in direct violation of baseball law. So he jumped in and stole Artie Wilson at the last minute, and this case would eventually get protested. And how about this? Artie Wilson would end up with the New York Giants, who buried him in their organization, and he never really got a chance to play at the big league level for any significant time. But he did go on and had some wonderful years on the Pacific Coast League. This guy was a real player, and he passed away a number of years ago out in oh, wait, I think he was in Portland, Oregon. I talked to him on the telephone several times, but yeah, Artie Wilson. And yeah, so I don't know how many people ever heard of Artie Wilson. He should have been on baseball cards and everything, but you know, at that particular time, you signed with the Giants. The Giants are loaded with African American players. Actually, they were the first team in the National or American League to put 5 black players on the field at one time. And I don't know if you know who those 5 were, but I could tell you. But yeah, so they were the first team to do that. And Artie Wilson was somebody who just got buried in the organization. Great player, somebody I wish that we knew more about. I'm going to talk about Wilson a little bit more because he was somebody that I had a chance to talk to. And there's a number of articles that were written about him before he passed away that give you a lot of his current history. So that's all that I was going to talk about tonight. Somebody says, let me see if I can answer some of your questions here. Let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Somebody mentioned the Globetrotters. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Somebody said something about a gym teacher he played with the Globetrotters. Yeah, there were, you know, the Globetrotters at one time, they had maybe sometimes 3 teams on the road. I don't know if you knew that. So you can run into Globetrotters all over the place. And yeah, that's true. Abe Saperstein had a dynasty going there, and he made a lot of money off of the second and third team. They had some other teams that he sponsored that traveled with them. I know they had a team called the Kansas City. I'm trying to think what they were called. They were called something, the Kansas City something, and Piper Davis played for them, who was also a baseball player, and he gave me a lot of that history as well. So anyway, guys, if you like what I'm doing here, go ahead and subscribe. Remember, I'm trying to get to that 600 subscribers. I'm not far away, but we're still working on it. And then once we get to 600, we're going to be working to get to 700. So today I just kind of talked about John Henry Lloyd. I talked about Nat Strong, talked about Neil Robinson, the Gilchrist Union Giants. Matter of fact, Robert P. Gilchrist. I've been to the city where he lived, which is Spring Valley, Illinois. And I went there, and specifically, I wanted to go to the cemetery where he was buried. And I did go there and left some flowers. And at that particular time, I had to have a cemetery guy help me out to find it. And so I did leave some flowers there. And unfortunately, Robert P. Gilkerson committed suicide. And this was after many years of promoting great baseball teams, basketball teams. He was a great player himself. Robert P. Gilkerson. Look him up. Don't take my word for it. Passed away in Spring Valley, Illinois. And guess what? The house that he committed suicide in is still there. Yeah, it's still there. I took some pictures when I was in there, and of course I had his address and everything. So I don't know if the people living there actually knew that's what occurred in that house. Yep. So yeah, and his wife had a restaurant there. She had passed away, and she was famous for her fried chicken. So if you get up in that area, that part of the country, you can learn a lot about Robert P. Gilkerson, and that's Spring Valley, Illinois. And while I was there, I stopped over in Peru, Illinois, and did some speaking there. So I'm well traveled and have been around to different places. And so some of these things I can talk about real well. I will tell you this, Neil Robinson, when I was first starting to research on the Negro Baseball Leagues, I really hunted for Neil Robinson. And I talked to people up in Cincinnati. I don't know if you remember Roy Partlow. he played in the Brooklyn organization. Now, most people know Jackie Robinson signed, okay, but when Jackie Robinson actually came to Montreal, there was another guy, actually two more guys with him. And the first one was Ernie Wright. And then they sent Ernie Wright down to Three Rivers, and then they brought up Roy Partlow. And so I was able to not interview Jackie Robinson, but how about Ernie Wright and Roy Partlow? And I don't know anybody who interviewed Roy Partlow. But yeah, really good guy, and those are the people I was talking to when I was trying to find out what became of Neil Robinson, and I never was able to find Neil. I had his wife's name, and of course I knew they came from Gary, Indiana, and but yeah, I never was able to find him. Of course, he eventually passed away, and that contact was never made. And of course, Artie Wilson. A lot of people had a chance to talk to Artie Wilson because he was doing some baseball card shows toward the end of his life. So there's some Artie Wilson autographs floating around out there. So if you want to get a autograph of a 400 hitter, get an Artie Wilson autograph. That's probably the easiest autograph you'll get of a 400 hitter. So I'm just putting you on alert. Go after it. Put that in your collection and say, hey, I got the autograph of a 400 hitter. His name is Artie Wilson. All right. So, guys, that does it for me. I'm going to go in here. I've got to do some playing. I'm working on some things with my trumpet, so I got to go rehearse and that kind of thing. So if you want to hear me play trumpet, just go back and look through some of my old YouTube feeds, and you'll see me playing the trumpet. So I appreciate the hearts, guys, and you following me. Let's see. Okay, some more things here. Let's see. Yeah, somebody saying they believe when Artie Wilson came up, he became the odd man out. Yeah, they had Hank Thompson, and they had, who else was there? Monty Irvin was there. I'm trying to think, who was the other one? Hank Thompson, Monty Irvin. I'm drawing a blank. Ray Nobley, that was there. I'm trying to think of somebody else. Of course, Willie Mays. How can I forget Willie Mays? Oh, man. Uh, yeah, but they were the first team to ever put 5 black players on the field at one time. Now, somebody knows that the first team to ever put 9 black players on the field at one time was the 1971 Pittsburgh Pirates. And of course, that's never happened again. Now, they weren't all born in America. Some of them were born, in Latin America, but they were black. And so that's the first time that that happened. And that's the only time that has happened for 9 players. Yeah, and I was looking at a guy, and man, he had a great collection because he had a bat that belonged to every one of those 9 players, a personal bat. I said, now that's a collection right there. I wish I had something like that. I do have a number of bats in my closet here from different players, but man, I said now that's a collection there. All right. So anyway, guys, I appreciate that, and I'll be back tomorrow. And I see Will's in here. Yep, Will's always got lots of knowledge here, and he's always quick with the finger, and he can give you some facts here as quick as I can spit them out. He can answer them, right? That's Will. So you might want to follow Will here. He's that at 5'7" Mr. MR Will, WILL. Might want to follow him on YouTube or somewhere where you can pick him up. Yeah, I'm giving you a plug there, Will, because he does a great job. And he's from Hackensack, New Jersey. One of these days, I'm going to do a little research on some teams from Hackensack and see if I can stump their old pro here. Somebody said the Savoy Big Five. That was a good team, too. That's the team that Abe Saperstein started the Harlem Globetrotters with. So, guys, all right, so I'm out of here. I used to go about 20 minutes. I'm 19 minutes and 16 seconds. Do want to thank you for joining me tonight. And be sure to subscribe if you're picking this broadcast up later on. Certainly would appreciate that. And also, let's see, I'll be back tomorrow. And so this ends tonight edition. This is the February 11th, 2026. I can get that out here. Of this day in Black baseball history. So thank you, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Have a nice evening, and I'll see you real soon.